Hey guys, what's up? Liz here. How you guys doing? It's been a while. I've done one of these photography videos, so let's go ahead and do one. So as you can see, today we're at the Magic Kingdom, and I'm going to be showing you how to take photos of Disney Starlight Parade. So let's go outside. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the equipment that we'll be using to take the photos of Starlight Parade at the Magic Kingdom. So you guys have already seen in my previous videos, my camera is the Canon R, which is this one. It's been already out for a couple of years. It's a full frame mirrorless camera, which is awesome. And the mount is an RF mount. And obviously being mirrorless, it's very light and really easy to use, and it does all the heavy lifting. So the first lens I used was actually this one, which was the 35mm lens. And this one is actually, I was really surprised how well it performed. This is 35mm 1.8. The other lens that I used on the second time of the night was actually the 85mm, which was the this one, which is the lens that they no longer make. There was this issue about when the cameras first came out, there was autofocusing, and there's some patents and stuff like that, and then this company ended up doing this lens, and for some reason I think they had a cease and desist or something that happened. So this lens you can actually not get anymore, which is the 85 1.8, but you can get the Canon one, which I think is probably better since this one doesn't have stabilization like the other one does. Now the other one that I used was a really interesting one, which was this one, which is the 70-200, and this is a Sigma lens. Now this one, interestingly, it is for EF mount, so it's for the older Canon's cameras, full frames. And as you can see here, I have a mount for it. So this mount allows me to use this lens, which is for an EF, and the EF mount is, for example, for the Canon Rebels and all that stuff. Now when it comes to settings, there's a couple of things that I will be doing. One thing is that I'll be shooting in manual mode, but it's not really manual mode. Once I put in manual mode, the shutter speed I'll be doing from 1/250 to 1/400, 1/500, depends what's going on. In the case of the floats, they don't go that fast. They're pretty slow. So the first set of photos I did it at 1/200, and they came out very well, because again, I'm shooting the floats from the, so I'm not really trying to focus in on a face and stuff like that. And from 1/200 came out awesome, and f1.8 all the way with all these shots that we're talking about. Now when it comes to the ISO, I usually let the ISO run auto. I just put an auto and let it go, because it's something less that I have to think about, and I let the camera do the thinking when it comes to computing the ISO. Now of course, there's many ways to do this. If you like to set the ISO before, and many ways to do this, but the way that I like to do it is that when I'm coming to night shots, I try to fix my shutter speed, because always my first priority is to get the image in focus and sharp. Because if you start bringing it down because you don't want to sacrifice the ISO, then blur comes in, and once the image is blur, it's game over. So that's just me, and that's the way how I like to do it. Now when it comes to metering mode, that's another one that I wanted to talk about. I will actually put my camera on center weighted average. Now I don't use spot metering because I don't want the camera to try to hit on some spot, and then if it's dark, it's going to blow out everything. So center weighted average gives the camera opportunity to focus on the center, but not on the outside, which usually it's always the night, and then we don't want it to overexpose on the photos and our ISO go up and all that stuff and introduce noise and have a bad day on those photos. So that's what I'll usually use. Now when it comes to focus, any type of autofocus, I usually tend to point more towards the center of the image, and that way I try to, maybe sometimes I'll probably adjust the focusing points a little bit to the top, because usually in the case of the floats, the person is on the top and you want to get the whole float. So that's another thing that sometimes I'll do, and I'll just do it by adjusting the focus points to the top, or just tap it on the screen, which is another thing. Okay, so one thing very important with this parade is that it actually starts through here, which is Town Square. It doesn't start through the other location, so because many people will set up on the flagpole, but what will happen is that you'll see the back of the parade. So again, this nighttime parade actually starts the other way around. It's reverse. The same for the two things, either at 9 or at 11. Now as you can see here, it looks a little dark, but that's okay. We got an umbrella, so we should be fine. Now one of the things to remember is that if you're going to be shooting this parade, the good spots are actually, one is the corner, so make sure you get a corner. For example, right here, this corner here is a good spot, because the parade's going to come around and it's going to come up to this street, and you're going to get here. You're going to get the parade coming towards you, which is going to look really good. Now, besides that corner, you can also park in front of Tony's restaurant. A lot of really good spaces here along the way. So it's great to walk up Main Street and see people's smiling faces and enjoying it, and some seeing the castle for the first time. You hear the wows and the stuff like that, which is really cool, so never gets old. Okay, so the official time is 5:49 right now. The first parade, the Starlight Parade, is at 9, and the second one is at 11. So basically all the spots are open, so if you want to like grab a really good spot, but now's the time to do it. Okay, so here we are at the end of Main Street, and you're probably wondering where the parade will go. It will actually go to the right-hand side. So if we're looking at the castle, it's going to take a right here, and it's going to go around this way to the hub. It will not go to the left. And the reason for it, as I mentioned, the parade will come around the hub, and when you stand here, you're going to get the parade coming towards you, because it needs to take a turn to the left, and you're going to get the castle in the back. So not sure if we'll do this one, but definitely wanted to show you the spot in case you want to park early and get these shots here. So over there we got those black clouds looming over Tomorrowland. Go away. Now, one of the best tips is actually if you can wait for the 11 o'clock parade, even better. But here, for example, I parked 2 hours earlier to be able to get this shot with the castle behind me, but it was hot, so be aware. Now for this shot, I'm going to go with my 85 1.8, as you can see here. And my reason was because I wanted to get some good close-up shots of the characters with hopefully the castle in the back. So let's go ahead and give it a shot and see what we get. Now sunset is starting to happen. It's around 8:30. The parade should be starting in 30 minutes or so. But I just wanted to do a pan around here so you can see the amount of people and how important it is that if you want to get that shot, to get there early. Again, this was for the 9 o'clock show. Now let's go ahead and check out the shots. So the cool thing is that as they're coming around the corner, you can get some really cool head-end shots like this. But again, it allows you to prepare the camera and see how the settings are before they actually cross in front of the castle. And here she is crossing in front of the castle. As you can see, I want to make sure that the castle shows up in the background. And of course, focusing on the main character's eyes, because that's what you always want to try to focus on these types of shots, is the eyes. And that way everything's in focus. Now, of course, here's Encanto. Really cool shot. Love this one. Again, all these are shot with the 85 millimeter. So I wanted to get a really cool tight shot of the characters with the castle in the back. And it was really fun, and the characters were awesome. Such a great parade. Now for the 11 o'clock show, I did park in front of Tony's restaurant here, and as you can see all the people going out after the fireworks has happened. And I think this was probably the easier one because you didn't have to wait in the sun. Now for this one, I went with the 70 to 200. You can see here the 2.8, again, to try to get those good tight shots of the characters. Now the thing was heavy. I admit that after a while, my arm was starting to hurt big time, so be aware. Now the first shot I got here, all the way almost to 200, focusing on the ferry as she came around the corner. And you'll see in a couple more shots, I actually zoom out and take advantage that we can go back all the way to 70. And that way, be able to capture some of the floats and some other stuff as they're coming around the corner. Now for the next photo, I did pull back a little bit to around 168 millimeters, and why? Because I wanted to capture what was behind it. That's the whole idea of sitting on this corner. You can get that really cool effect of the character in the front and the buildings in the back. The next one up is the princess float, which I like to call it, which is actually the princesses with their prince. And this one was a pretty hard one to get because you really don't know where they're going to be looking at. So it's really just a toss up to see what you can get as they're moving by. The final photo from this location I'm going to post is actually one of the final floats, which is the one that has Mickey and Minnie at the end, and it's the train giving homage to the electrical parade. And this one, it is just awesome. I love how it looks coming around the corner. Okay, the next location of shots that I'm going to share is from here on Main Street, where I sat down on the sidewalk. And basically here, the good thing that I wanted to try to do is capture the float in its entirety. So this is where we're going to be using the 35 millimeter because I wanted to make sure I got the whole floats. I wasn't really focusing on the characters. Okay, so here are some of the shots that I took with the 35 millimeter. Now I am shooting from the bottom up because I wanted to get that really cool, massive going up to effect here, and you can also get some of the shadows and lights off of the floor, which is really cool. Now again, 35 millimeter did the job. It is so cool because you can get some really cool shots here, and as you get closer you can get stuff like this, which is always awesome. Love this location. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the photos that we took on those couple of days shooting Starlight. Now, the first thing that I will tell you right away is that sometimes you have them in the right spot, in the right location, and the characters are looking the other way. Unfortunately, that's the nature of these parades. They're roaming around a lot, so take a lot of shots, and if you're lucky where you have them looking at you, great. If they don't, well, then you just try again. So some of the shots that you'll see here, luckily I have them looking my way, but I'm going to show you a couple of shots where they're looking the other way, or I got a pole in the middle or something. So that's just something that's going to happen of all parades. Now, for the starters, the first photos I'm going to show you is actually the ones done with the 35mm, which were the ones that I shot on Main Street USA sitting down. Now, for that, I did use the pop-out screen of my camera, and I was able to put the camera low and shoot by tapping the screen. It made it way easier than trying to look through the viewfinder. So that's just one of the advantages of this camera, which is what I like so much. It's got this pop-out screen to be able to get those bottom up shots without having to go down low. Okay, so the first shot here, as you can see, I got really lucky. I had Aurora and her prince turning around looking at us. Another thing that I did not really like too much was that the floats were very well lit. Everything was awesome, but then they had these dancers and performers doing stuff between the floats, and some of them were just too dark to be able to take shots. For example, this one here, I shot at 1/60 of a second, but you can see the ISO is 25,000, and even though you could try to denoise this stuff, it just wouldn't look right. It gets to a point where the noise is too big and you just lose all the detail on some of the faces. So it's not even, unfortunately, it's not even worth it. And sadly, a couple of performers have asked for photos, but I really don't have anything to offer when you can see like this. They have, I think, even less lighting than some of the other previous night parades. Okay, here is some of the other shots that I took. You can see here's a Coco float that I love. And as you can see, 35mm, you get pretty much a lot of the float. And here I'm actually cropping some of the people out. So you can see that right there where I was sitting on the side, the 35mm, which is not an ultra wide angle, it's actually just a regular 35, was able to get some really cool wide shots. Now, one that I loved a lot was actually this one, which was the Peter Pan float, and I love the little details and stuff like that. So I have here a empty one, unedited. Now, obviously, as photographers, I do not need to reinforce the that you have to shoot in RAW for stuff like, especially for stuff like this, where you take advantage of the full dynamic range of the camera. Because if you're trying to shoot in JPEG and you start to bring colors out and trying to do certain things, the camera is just, the image that you're working with just doesn't have that information. Now, yes, the RAW files are big. Yes, the RAW files are, you know, maybe make your camera slow, doesn't make you take a lot of photos at the same time. But again, the advantage of RAW that you can edit so much stuff and bring so much little things out that you thought you couldn't bring out, which is not possible with the JPEG. Okay, so for example, here's the shot, how it is RAW. As you can see, you probably think this is really dark, which is fine, because again, shooting RAW allows us to, you know, bring some of this stuff out. So we're just going to go with the basic settings here. I'm not going to show every little detail I do, because again, I want you guys to put your touch to it, because again, it's what you do to the photos that makes this a fun hobby. So basically, bring up the exposure a little bit, and then I usually don't touch the contrast. If you want to touch that, great. And then the highlights is when they're going to bring down or that, you know, really sparkling lights, and we want to bring it down. Now, usually for day shots, everybody will just bring this down to 100%, but I just bring it just a tad enough to be able to get the detail of the people's faces. And this one looks like he's squinting. That's total accident there. And then we're going to bring up the shadows just a touch. And in many cases, in this case specifically, I'm actually going to bring it down. And the reason for that, it's going to hide all the noise that's around the float, stuff like that. It's going to make it basically pitch dark, which is what we want. Again, tinker with the settings depending how your shots came out, what you want to do. You can also adjust some of the stuff that comes around the float like that. Bringing the black down will do a little bit of that, but it will sometimes hide some of the details of the float, so adjust it accordingly. Whites, I love bringing up whites. Whites is something that I hear a lot on people commenting on photos, like, oh, those photos pop and stuff like that. And it's funny because it's white that pops the photos, okay? So that's a tip there for you guys. White pops the photos. So here you can see right away, the photo looks awesome. If you want, which is what sometimes people do, you bring the temperature down. You can bring it to a cooler temperature like this, and you'll see that some of the stuff looks a little bit more, incredibly for me, it looks more detailed, if that makes any sense. And again, you don't want to bring it down too much to make it look fake, you know, like this. You don't want it to, you know, like everybody's having, you know, a bad day, but just enough to make it look where the skin looks good. And we'll go ahead and zoom on that, and you can see that just adjusting the temperature down a little bit, we still got good skin color on Peter and Wendy, and the colors look good. Usually when it comes to temperature adjustments, I try to look at stuff which I know what the color is. And I know that sounds dumb, but for example, I'll look for trees, make sure the trees are green. I'll look for stuff that is white, make sure that the handkerchiefs, the whites of the eyes are white, stuff like that. And that way you more or less have an idea of what it should be. Now again, since these floats are filled with lights, it could be that that's not the effect that they want. Let's say that they want to shoot it, you know, that it looks like this, because maybe the lights that are pointing towards the characters are those tones of colors. So again, this is all up to you and how you want to represent your photo. Now, I won't go too much into the other ones, but you can go ahead and adjust some of this other colors and stuff if you want to. And then that brings up another thing that we want to crop. We can always crop. And the good thing of cropping at 1.8 is that you can still zoom in somewhat and get a really good detailed photo. Using other lenses, you know, while they're great with a higher, lower f-stops, like a higher number, sometimes when you start zooming in and cropping, you start losing some of the detail because you're zooming into stuff. But here, for example, I'll try to go ahead and cut out some of the people here in the audience. But again, I don't want to cut the float, so we're going to do this, like this. And maybe that looks okay, but again, it looks like too much to the right, so we're going to go ahead and just trim this a little bit. And this is probably a perfect square photo for Instagram. Now, there we go. It looks good enough to me. Now, if you want, you can do other things, like what I like to do sometimes is just a tad of the character, bump them up a little bit, which is where we use our brush. And I am going to just highlight on Wendy a little bit, and it's just enough where it's not noticeable that what you're doing, but at the same time it makes the characters pop. Now, something very, 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 very important, which I always tell people all the time, is that no one has seen the original photo. So you are the only one who's seen the original photo. You are the only person who's seen that Wendy and Peter are a little dark. So when you post this photo, you share it anywhere, nobody knows that you adjusted that. Okay, so that's one of my best tips to tell you out there. I'll go ahead and share a couple of other photos that we took here. Here's the train. Now, another thing that I like to do is actually tilt the camera sometimes on the bottom like this, like you see, which gives that really cool effect. And here you got the gang here hanging off of the side. Now, again, unfortunately, like I mentioned before, you never know where the character is going to be. So, for example, on this float, even though we see Mickey back there, Minnie is there, and Snow White is on this float, but she's on the other side. So unfortunately, it's just what happens when you take these type of shots where the floats and you're on one side. For example, here's Snow White back here in the back. Here's another one that, like I said, it all depends what side of the float you're on and how they're moving and stuff like that. In this case, Rapunzel and Flynn you can get them a really good shot on the left hand side, but you'll see, for example, Aladdin and Jasmine are somewhat on the other side, so I couldn't get a really good shot from them from this location. Here's another one that I took with the 85. This was the one that we shot from in front of the castle. As she was coming around the corner, I was able to basically zoom in pretty good and get her from a distance. As you can see here, shooting at 1.8 gives us the option to the ability to crop and still get a really good photo and center stuff and stuff like that. Here's another photo that I was talking to you about, that sometimes there's just nothing you can do. This would have been an amazing photo if Cinderella and her prince were looking towards me, but unfortunately, it is what it is. They were looking towards the other direction, and again, I got that pole in the middle that, you know, ruined the photo. But hey, happens to all of us. But I did get another good one, which was here, which is Snow White. And as you can see, which is really funny, again, stating my case, you'll see that you probably think that she's alone, but she's not. The other character's in the back, just that he's looking the other way. Here is one that I took with the 70-200. This is 2.8. And this one, I'm zoomed in over all full 200. And this is when she's coming around the corner. She's actually more or less in front of the train station. And look how sharp it looks, which is great. At 320, I think it looks excellent for me. And basic settings, nothing fancy here. I didn't adjust any of the colors. And of course, I did crop a little bit. Oh no, this one I didn't actually crop at all. And here's another one that I shot with the 70-200, but this time I'm pulling back all the way back to 70, and I'm getting the the last float, which is coming around the corner. Now, I do want to mention sometimes with these bulbs, you'll get a thing that is called, let me look for it here. The fringe, and sometimes you have to adjust this, because what happens is that some of the bulbs will have like that purple glow to them, and while that is the effect that they want, but sometimes if you want to take it off just to make it really white, you can come here to the lens correction in their manual and bring up the fringe, and you'll see how it sort of like removes that edge of purple and sometimes other colors. But again, you got to use it with caution, because for example, if you look here on this part here, look what happens when I adjust this too much. You start getting weird stuff that's happening. So use with caution, but you know, for example, just a tad here will clean up those little lights effects that we're having. And there you go. Those are some of the shots and how I edited them. Now, wrapping up this video, I want to finish up with a couple of points. First is, again, all depends where the characters are on the float at the moment. So make sure you try to get the 2 shows, because every show you may have characters that are on one side of the floats or somewhere on the other. So it all depends. It's all random. It's not like you can pick up what size they're going to be. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe, comment, share, and do all the fun stuff so we get these videos out more often for you guys. And if you like this photographic video and think I should make some more, please comment below. I'd really appreciate to get your feedback on it. Now, if you've watched this video and have seen the parade and taken photos with the tips that I provided here, feel free to put a link on the bottom or send me a link to them. I'd love to see them. Now, if this is the first time watching these videos, my name is Disney Nuts, and I'm part of the Journey Duo, which is me and my wife, that we do stuff around Central Florida. And among some of these videos like this where I do photographic tips, we also visit food restaurants and other stuff that we do together as a couple. So if you like what you saw, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Until then, guys, stay awesome. Bye.